Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced SimRacing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really going to reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
O'Brien's lead hangs on by a thread. The winless points leader has been cruising at the top until now, but he must be able to beat his rivals on the track if he wants to hold on to that. If last week is anything to go by, he'll have an uphill battle trying to beat Acosta at Indianapolis. We'll see if he can as we get ready to watch Round 8 of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Who would have thought in 1994 that the first visit from NASCAR would eventually lead to the triple header we witnessed on the road course this weekend? To help the viewer get up to speed, let's head to our track guide for this much twistier layout. Welcome to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Though this track is by far more famous for its oval, which has been around for more than 100 years, road racing has become a regular feature thanks to the infield course built at the turn of the century. It has gone through multiple changes since then, but here on iRacing there are two road layouts to choose from. Both clock in at just over 2.5 miles, with the moto version including 16 turns and the road version having 13. The bike circuit is far less used on iRacing with its more technical start to the lap, but still runs in the traditional counterclockwise direction. The road circuit, however, runs clockwise and presents a stark contrast between the twisty infield portion and the incredibly fast half that runs on the oval. Passing is often difficult here, but by far the most popular spot is under braking down into turn 1. From there, drivers are taken through a series of corners with little chance to rest between them. However, the exit of turn 11 often proves to be the most critical of the corners, with it leading you back onto the oval. Taking what is usually turn 1 in reverse, drivers build up incredible speeds. This tends to cause slipstream battles to erupt and can often make for close, exciting finishes. Formula One, IMSA, and MotoGP have all taken to the track, but currently IndyCar has become the biggest event the road circuit sees all year. Preceding the traditional practice and qualifying weeks leading to the Indianapolis 500, the Grand Prix of Indy has become one of the more desirable victories to claim. While there is still a proportionally small amount of history built on this version of Indianapolis, it's quickly becoming both a popular and well-used portion of this famous racetrack. Well, DJ, back when Formula One left town, I thought that this road course would become sort of a forgotten relic of this track, but it sure has been getting a lot of use in the last few years.
It most certainly has, Joe, and as this weekend has taught us, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course can still throw up a few surprises for these drivers. Now, important thing to remember about the course that we're racing here today, this is the original Formula One layout, so it doesn't have that quick chicane going on to Hallman Boulevard, and it's a little bit slower than the current incarnation. With all that in mind, seeing these stock cars come around here, well, the best overtaking opportunity, that's going to be going down into turn one. They still use the banking of Indianapolis 1 to go around the final corner, and that'll be a great place for a draft to be picked up. From there on out, it's a lot of technical, precise driving that these drivers are going to have to do. The left-handed turn off of Hallman Boulevard may look like a little bit of an overtaking opportunity, but the truth is that to set up that tricky right-left chicane, that's going to make things a little bit difficult. So it's going to take a lot of patience for these guys to get through the infield and get back onto the oval, because that's where their best opportunity to get by is going to be.
I'm expecting a lot of action down into that first turn for sure. But before we get to that action, we want to mention that our broadcast is brought to you by ASR. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com.
It's also sponsored by RaceLab. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it for free at racelab.app.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebutkicker.com.
Today's event is also brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SimMSA.net.
And finally, the PRL NASCAR Cup Series is brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Now, the performance up at the top has been an interesting mix here for our championship. Look at this. We have a tie for second place, Acosta and Rondaletto, eager to overtake O'Brien, with both of them having wins so far this season. Bradley Holly also with 2 of his own wins, only 3 points back, and then Matthew Long back there 7 points behind. Then you get at least a tiny bit bigger gap down to Elliott White, 17 points back. So this is all to play for, because we have to remember that we are in round 8 right now. So this is getting down towards the end of things, and there's only so many more chances for drivers to make a name for themselves in the points hunt. Let's take a look at the team's championship, though.
Well, it is a little just as tight there in that team's championship, Joe, with private label Team Hype only a single point ahead of Whataback Racing Black. 4 points back is James Bird Racing, so a very tight battle there, 1 through 3. But then we get some gaps with SGE eSports Slipstream of 62 points back of our leaders, with SGE eSports Apex 77 points back.
As for today's event, slightly fewer laps than what we or slightly more laps rather than what we experienced last time. 47 laps that they'll be going around, and there's no spare car. There's plenty of runoff in most of the spaces out here, but there are a few spots where you could wind up hitting the wall for sure. It's an open setup series, and well, we'll see if anybody finds any sort of trick to make them go a little bit quicker around here. have to imagine they'll want to trim them out for that front stretch. 24 incident limit will force them to be DNF'd if they go over that. So you got to keep it clean. You can't cut through the grass too many times with a mistake around here. As we watch Abner Acosta, currently second on the timing sheets behind Octavio Arondaletto, where it seems like Octavio and Abner are the class of the field today in the warm-up. They have got a mighty gap to anybody else.
Yeah, you and I were talking about it before we went live, Joe. Right now, it's holding at about a 7/10 of a second gap there. Back to Matthew Long in third, and Trent Dinkle a whopping 1.1 seconds back from your leader in fourth place, although he was just jumped over by James O'Brien coming in. He's still about 0.8 of a second back, so a lot of room to make up right there.
And Bradley Hawley a little bit farther down than I thought he would be. It seems like he used to be a little stronger at these road courses comparatively. As we see Abner coming down Holman Boulevard into one of the other few places where we might see passes, but this is also a wider corner, or at least a more open radius corner than it is in modern day, with this being a little bit of an older version of the track. So it might be harder to outbrake somebody there. In the meantime, with our 20 cars that have signed up, that should be plenty to keep things interesting. But what about when we get to that first corner here, DJ, that we've seen just about every road series that comes here and charges down into that, tends to have a bit of a bad time sometimes.
Yeah, I would call that a prime opportunity for a big kerfluffle out on track, Joe. Drivers are going to have to be very, very careful. Make sure they check up for everybody in front of them, as it's very, very easy to outbrake yourself down into that 90-degree right-hander off of the front stretch here. It is the prime overtaking opportunity that we'll see later in the race, but even as these cars start to spread out a little bit, I would not be surprised if we see a lot of brake smoke and a couple of cars flying off into the grass.
Certainly, and they do have opportunities to try and get back onto the track through an escape road, but you really don't want to be doing that here today, especially if you lock up those tires and overheat them. Looks like our qualifying session just getting ready to start. Just like in the oval races, they only get 2 laps to set a fast time, but they also still only have those 5 minutes to do it. So they got to get out there and put one in relatively quickly, with it being about 1.5 minutes to get around this place. So let's see who can back up their pace in the warm-up session with the qualifying session. Looks like Octavio Rondaletto and Abner Acosta are probably going to be the ones to beat here today, based on what we've seen so far. And I think Patrick Cowgill is our first one out on the track.
Yes, that does look like the 31 is the first on out, although I'm seeing quite a few of the others following behind. Holly, Walden, Cervantes, Rondaletto, a lot of other guys coming out here. It is solo qualifying here at the Brickyard, so they're not going to get any benefits from the draft, and with only 2 laps, they're going to have to really make them count.
And looks like, yeah, pretty much everybody's out there. Baron Hilton, Mark Kalin, Pat Harvey haven't taken to the track. Maybe they might be electing to start from the back of the field. I know Hilton wasn't looking super hot out there based on his practice times. Now we've got, that looks like Pat Harvey out there and Mark Kalin. So maybe only Baron Hilton will be our only one not to qualify. As we wait for the first few times to get on the board. Actually, honestly, still waiting for the first drivers to at least start a flying lap. It is relatively hot on the track today, too, on top of things, so they are going to be slipping and sliding around in these heavy cars.
Yeah, indeed they are, Joe. It's 115 degrees on the track, about 10, 11 miles an hour of wind out here. So they're certainly going to have their hands full as they work their way around. Could see a decent amount of tire wear. There is a lot of load put on the left-hand tires of these cars, specifically going around Oval 1, as drivers are now starting their flying laps. It's the first time we're really going to get a sense to see if anybody was holding back during that practice session. I'm
also watching to see if we get anybody missing that first corner here in qualifying and throwing away their first lap early. So far, so good. Nobody taking off into the grass or into the paved runoff there into the Oval 4. So yeah, I think we have everybody with a good heads up, at least here at this stage. And Cowgill still is going to be your first one to be able to set a time. He's already on Holman Boulevard.
Yes, he is, and it looks like the 25 of Danny Cervantes will be the next one across the line. So when those two cross over, we'll start getting an idea of representative lap times here. As we've said, everybody on track right now with the exception of Baron Hilton. He is still in the pits. Drivers making their way out of the infield section right now as we pick up Patrick Cowgill. This is that final run, the flat-out blast down to the yard of bricks.
So the 31 car coming around turn 1. Let's see if he can get himself a decent time here and put himself in a competitive position. He crosses the timing line, and it's going to be a 31.7. Everybody else now looking to try and meet that. Cervantes should be next. It's a 31.6. Immediately goes faster than him. Rondoletto, 29.6. He is a full 2 seconds faster.
Oh my goodness gracious. Chris Hudson, the only one who's able to get somewhat close to that, 1.4 seconds behind. Let's see what Acosta has, and Acosta able to go faster than Rondoletto to the tune of about 0.6 of a second.
Ooh, okay. So Acosta pulling one over on Octavio here on the first lap. James O'Brien down and across the line at 29.8. We'll bump him up to third. And still about 0.7 of a second off the pole. We're waiting for Kalen, Harvey, White, Self, and Besaw to come across as we see Cowgill there on the back stretch. Kalen and White, as it looks like White put a 30.5. That'll get him into the outside of the third row rather. 31 flat for Mark Kalen. We'll put him into 8th.
Yeah, so he'll be up into 8th. Interesting there, James O'Brien opting to come back into the pits and take a tow. So he's really only going to have one crack at the apple. That's it. So he will stay in third, not do any better. Following Patrick Cowgill. Oh, Rondoletto too. Rondoletto has come to a stop. So he is conceding that first place right now to Abner Acosta.
I don't want to call it yet because we still could get a shocker from somebody else. Here's Cowgill. He was shuffled down to 13th after his first lap. As he comes to the line, a 31.1, about half a second improvement. That'll put him into 10th. Cervantes up next, a 31.4 for him. And he will stay in 12th as Walden goes to a 31 flat, 8th place for him. Hudson doesn't improve. Walter doesn't set a time, unfortunately, and that is the end of our qualifying. All right, let's go through that starting grid for today. Abner Acosta solidly up front with Octavio Rondoletto starting to his outside. Can he do better? And did he miss out with that second lap potentially? James O'Brien starts from third with Matthew Long in P4. Trent Dinkle will be in 5th with Elliott White in 6th as Bradley Hawley starts from 7th, Walden in 8th, Kalen 9th, and Hudson rounding out your top 10.
In 11th, it's going to be Patrick Cowgill, followed by Danny Cervantes with Pat Harvey and Brandon Walter lining up behind them. Charles Sumner will be to the inside of row 8, followed by Adam Zemke with Michael Witt in 17th and Robert Besaw Jr. in 18th. Besaw not setting a time, as neither did Baron Hilton or Aaron Self.
Have a few onboards for today as well as we get ready to take off on the pace lap. I believe Patrick Cowgill in the 31 is going to be giving us a view starting from the 11th spot today. There, that one is. And then I think we have Trent Dinkle as well in the 501 that will be joining us. He'll be starting much farther up the order in 5th position up there. And a little bit later, we hope to get a view from Hudson as well as Dinkle. So looks like a few drivers maybe having their own technical issues out there. We'll see if they get the cameras up and rolling later on. We'd love to take a look and see what they see as we get ready to go behind the Porsche pace car. And then we are on our way for 47 laps. Let's not forget there is an expected pit stop. Well, pretty much a required pit stop as they can't make it on fuel here today, DJ. And with that pit stop, there's that pit entry that requires them to use that cool down lane. And then the exit dumps them right into the racing line of turn 1. So each is going to present their own problems.
Indeed, Joe, that entry can be very, very tricky. You've got to enter onto the apron there, and what would traditionally be the pit out on the oval here. You have to come in off of the penultimate corner. You cannot cut from the exit of oval 1. You will get dinged by iRacing for a penalty with that. And then coming back out, as you said, it is very, very tricky. You dump right into the racing line. You've got to be very, very careful of everything around you. And because you've been stationary in the pits, your brakes are going to be a little bit cooler. You're going to have new tires on the car, so you've got to really make sure you know that braking zone absolutely perfectly before you commit to it.
I find it interesting that James O'Brien managed to hold on to that third place despite not taking his second qualifying lap. A little bit of luck there that the others were maybe a little too slow to get around for that second flying lap to dethrone him. But this is good news. He's going to be directly behind the two guys that he wants to beat. The question is, can he actually do that today? Unless he's been sandbagging, I'm frankly not hopeful.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily either, Joe. The pace that we saw out of Acosta and Rondeletto during practice was truly terrifying. These guys able to just pull out a massive, massive gap. Wouldn't be surprised if the two of them know that, maybe play a little bit of leapfrog as these laps go down and decide to just put a massive gap on the field.
All right, just a couple more to go, and then we go racing here for round 8 of the Precision Racing League NASCAR Cup Series. Back-to-back road courses for our drivers to compete at, which certainly plays well to Abner Acosta, and we must say to Rondeletto, who looked pretty good at Watkins Glen early on as well, as they now get stacked up. Some of them actually almost stacking into the cars in front of them, having to check up. I think that was Bradley Holly who had to get on the brakes in a hurry there. They're all going to try and get nice and close so that they don't miss out on the jump once that green flag falls. Here goes the Porsche pace car getting ready to give control over to Abner Acosta. There it goes, waiting patiently, looking for the call, and there it is. Green flag is out. It's a good one for Acosta, but it's an even better one for O'Brien. He might be able to get past Rondeletto. Will he try and make a move on the 5 down into the first corner? He breaks a little bit earlier. Everybody checking up to get down to that slow right-hander. And even though it is a Noah's Ark into there, it is very orderly.
Kudos to everybody there to get through nice and cleanly. Rondeletto able to hold on to second. Dinkel making some moves there in the back to move himself up to 4th, it looks like, but he's still a little bit side by side with Matthew Long. Long finally falls back into order. No real offs here to speak of, so kudos to this entire field, Joe.
They had a single one, Mark Kalin, in turn 2, just went a little wide. He went to the back of the field because of that. Otherwise, yeah, glad to see everybody's trying to play patient, as Rondeletto's using a lot of that exit. I do believe that is fair game here on this layout. And down braking into turn 8. No change of position for our leaders.
No, none at all. As I said, it's very difficult to get that pass done, but Rondeletto very good through the second sector of this infield section. Really got up to the rear bumper of Abner Acosta. Now that draft is going to come in handy here. It's going to start to push forward. This is the first time we're really going to see that in full effect. So let's get it going. Here comes Rondeletto.
How much of the slipstream will help him? He is right tucked up underneath there. It's 170 miles an hour already as these powerful engines push them down the back stretch, or the front stretch, backwards. And even though he takes a little bit of a look, Rondeletto not able to do anything for their second visit into turn 1. In fact, I'm looking down through the field, and the first one to be able to actually try and attempt to pass, it's Calgill, who had a slowdown penalty for cutting the course on that first lap.
Yes, that's one of the things that pushed him down the order, keeping our eyes focused here, though. Oh, I believe that's Dinkel. Dinkel having a real hard time coming off of that second turn there. He's a little bit turned around, able to get back going. And there he is. You can see him in that blue and yellow machine.
Had a really sketchy re-entry. He's lucky he did not get hit. I think the The 84 of Walden had a very close moment coming upon him, because there you see the car slow and come to the apex, and there you see Walden, and then I think that is Hudson, who had to go around his outside as well in that 43. Everybody's still rolling, but clearly these heavy cars are tough around this track.
Most certainly, and even the light cars, the open wheelers that we sometimes see here, Joe, that complex can be very, very tricky. You have so much lateral load on the left-hand side tires of the car. You need to bring it all the way wide to be able to hit that right-hander just right, and that can be very, very easy to lose the balance of the car. Just made all the more difficult in these heavy, heavy stocks.
The 98 here of Sumner, currently running in 13th, trying to chase down Brandon Walter in front of him as we once again turn the attention up to the top 3. Credit to O'Brien. He's keeping touch with Rondoletto and Acosta for now. They're dropping Matthew Long, who is another one in the hunt for this championship. He's only 7 points behind. I know we're focusing a lot on Octavio Abner along with James, but we can't toss out the importance of both Hawley and Long in this.
No, we most certainly can't, and because of the narrow nature in some of these corners and the single line that you got to take through, if there is a little bit of a mistake up front from Acosta, Rondoletto, or O'Brien, we could certainly see something going wrong. Big chunk of the curb there as we ride on board.
Yeah, this is Bradley Hawley. He's losing touch with Matthew Long behind him. Oh, and I think we had another incident. Pat Harvey and Baron Hilton off the track at turn 6. 2 separate incidents, it appears. First one was Harvey, I think, who actually wound up backwards. He gets the car going. Let's see if we can pick up what caused this.
All right, so this is Harvey we're following. That's that same area that we saw Dinkle lose it at. He's able to keep it through there, takes a big chunk of the curb. Keep following here. Did he just carry a little bit too much speed into that long left-hander? Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
And then the 47, I'm not sure if maybe he was put off by the spinning car in front. He went wide, just glanced the barriers, got it back on track and rolling once again. So all 20 cars still on the circuit. We're still looking for when that pit window will open. Nobody can come in quite yet. As we look at Cervantes now, he's trying to shake Trent Dinkle for that 9th spot in the middle of the pack.
And remember, Dinkle out of position courtesy of that spin around the corner that we just saw him have. Dinkle has been hounding Cervantes for the past couple of laps here, just trying to find an opportunity by, but this Indianapolis old road course proving very, very difficult to overtake on.
Still is hanging with him. And we've now got the onboard with Trent Dinkle. Here we go. Unfortunately, not quite as quick through that sector as Cervantes was. He stretches away to about 0.6 of a second, just out of arm's reach, unfortunately, down into turn 8.
A little bit of a blank there in front for Cervantes. Yeah, it looks like Dinkle's able to close up relatively well here through the second part of this. He's going to try to maximize here coming through this right-hander. Takes a lot of that curbing there. That shouldn't be a slowdown for him. He should be good. But once they start to get the power down, I think Cervantes may be just a little bit more trimmed out, a little faster in a straight line because he's pulling away from Dinkle.
Yeah, just like you saw with real life with the Indy cars, they're allowed to cut over that little paved portion in turn 10 as they work their way, or turn 11 rather, as they work their way down the front stretch. Seems like Cervantes good on those corner exits, just gets himself out of reach of that 501. So under braking down into turn 1, Dinkle's going to have to try something else.
Yeah, just not able to get him in a straight line there. Dinkle's going to have to try to make a little bit of a surprise maneuver to get by. Whoa! Almost into the back of Cervantes.
Well, there's a good hint right there. He's quicker into turn 4 as under braking, he nearly bumps the rear bumper of Danny Cervantes. Once again, car looks pretty handy here into these slow turns, but then coming off of them, as they start to get on the throttle, that 25 machine just stretching away from him.
Yeah, and I thought for a second there that Dinkle may have a little bit of a look there. Cervantes got a little bit squirrely on the outside of the corner. There again, you can see Dinkel just so much better on the binders through the twisty bits. He's really going to have to send one up here, I think, to be able to get by. Really, really tricky.
However, they might actually be gaining. Cervantes was 0.6 of a second quicker than Chris Hudson in front of them last lap. He's got his own battle that you kind of catch glances of there in the camera shots with Waldo Walden. There they are on screen now onto the front stretch, and this is a very good run from the 43. He's going to show his nose. It'll take a really mighty effort under the brakes, which he doesn't have here quite yet as they slow into turn one. This time by Hudson, it's like a 32.3 for him. Cervantes with a 31.8. Yeah, they are running these two down.
Yeah, they most certainly are, so that is going to stretch into a bigger battle here in just a couple of laps, I think.
Oh my goodness. Rondoletto suddenly is all over the back of Acosta. Somehow he has closed this down to within 0.2 of a second, now back up to 0.3 onto Holman Boulevard. James O'Brien just giving wash and hanging tight.
Yeah, Joe, and I was keeping an eye on that. It really wasn't a mistake or anything from Acosta. It was just Rondoletto getting the power down really well through the oval portion of the track, getting full advantage of the draft. They were actually side by side going down into turn one, but Acosta able to make the outside line work, and obviously that switchback coming back to pay advantage. There, you see Acosta starting to pull away as they get onto the loud pedal. Now Rondoletto gonna hope to try to reel him in again. The gap holding at about 4.5 of a second.
And last week we saw at Watkins Glen, Abner Acosta was able to pull away as that was a little bit of a close one coming off the final turn for Rondoletto, just waggling the tail. I'm a little bit surprised that this time around Acosta essentially is unable to gap the field the same way that he did before.
Yeah, not really able to pull too much of advantage there. There you see Rondoletto not able to pull in as close as he was last time by, but still keeping that pressure up. Something we talk about a lot in road racing, just trying to force that other car into a mistake. Around here at Indy, where there are so many single line corners, it is very easy to make said mistake.
And poor Hudson has unfortunately failed the first corner and now lost 2 more positions because of it. If we get a replay, he actually just about made a pass on Waldo Walden into the first turn, then realized what happens when you go too deep on the brakes. Here we go.
Yeah, so that's Waldo to the outside. There you see him coming down the 43, gets onto the binders, does Hudson. Oh, that's exactly what we talked about, Joe. Just a little bit too much speed, and one of the most expensive lawnmowers in the world makes its way across the first turn of Indianapolis.
So Cervantes and Dinkel also get by, along with Walden getting his position back. Hudson's got work to do. And now Cervantes has just one less car that he's got to overtake. He's continuing to crawl forwards towards Walden. Thought I saw a problem for Brandon Walter, whose engine is smoking. Something must have happened with the 99.
Oh, yeah, there you can see it coming out of the back. That looks like a little bit of a smashed front end coming out of that car. So he must have made contact, and there a very dented in rear as well.
He got hit by Besaw Jr. into the braking at turn 8, and unfortunately was shoved into a bad spot. We're going to look at the replay here. He's just going to come to a complete halt. Here it is. Oh, there's Kalen, who gives him a second thwack. Kalen really didn't have any time to try and react to that. And we've had a change for the lead. If we want to stay on this replay, Abner Acosta has done the same thing that we just saw Hudson do into the first corner, and has unfortunately not just lost the lead, but second place as well. Here's Acosta's view.
Yeah, you see him, he comes in here, gets onto the binders, but just misses that braking zone a little bit, carries too much speed through the first corner, and right across the grass there, does a good job to get back onto the track, almost runs into Rondoletto, but that little bit of a slowdown, that's going to allow for James O'Brien to get back on by. But now if we go live, it's not over yet. That's Acosta down to the inside. He's got the position over O'Brien, but O'Brien now is going to get the benefit of the draft, and he's going to try to fight back.
They duck down through the banked final turn onto the front stretch. He's pretty close. Oh my goodness, they get close to that outside wall as well. And he's going to show himself in his mirrors, but I don't think O'Brien really has a realistic chance here into the corner. So he'll stay in third. Acosta now up to second. He's got to make up about 2 seconds to catch Rondoletto.
Yes, he does, and that's going to be easier said than done. Rondoletto now able to run in some clear air, so he's going to be very happy about that. Acosta's going to want to pull that gap down to about a second if he wants to take advantage of the draft down the long straightaways here, so he's going to have his work cut out for him.
Well, this will give us a good idea of where Acosta's pace sits in relation to Rondoletto, because now Octavio has all that clean air in front of him and can try to run to the beat of his own drum, while Acosta has not been having a battle side by side this lap with James O'Brien, at least up to this point. You can see O'Brien is still keeping him honest back there in the background. So this should be a pretty good representation of what their pace is compared to one another here on lap 9. We're waiting for lap 23 to 24 for the halfway mark, where we expect many of the drivers to elect to try and come in and take their fuel and tires.
Yeah, and I would imagine it'll be a 4-tire stop for most of these drivers, being as this is a road course. Lot of wear on the left sides, but you probably best to take all 4 here. Gonna cross over the timing and scoring line. The gap growing a little bit between Acosta and Rondoletto. It's about 1.8 seconds as they cross the line.
Ooh, it was a 32.4 for Octavio. Acosta with a 31.7. So he was a full 7/10 quicker than Octavio that time through. He is on it and rolling.
Yes, he most certainly is. He has got the pedal all the way to the floor here. Gap coming down to 1.6 now as they work their way through the infield section. I think we've got a race on our hands here, Joe.
Remember Cervantes trying to chase down Walden? That's also a race back there in 7th place, about half a second splitting them. Danny's been continuing to chip away at that one. He is easily ahead of Dinkle, and Hudson's not been able to take his place back ever since he had his outbraking into the first corner. Continuing to ride on board with Acosta down into turn 8. It weaves back and forth here before entering back onto the oval portion of the track.
And you see there that bump on the left-hander. So easy to upset the car no matter what kind of car you're driving. It's a real brutal corner to go through. You've got to clip it to be able to get through there just right. But Acosta handling it very, very well. Joe, he's taken off another about 3.5 tenths of a second here as they make their way on to the straightaway of the Brickyard.
Now this time by for Rondoletto, 32.1. Acosta 31.6. Another 7/10 that have been pulled back. James O'Brien, unfortunately, might be losing out. He was holding on to them for much of the first 10 laps of this race, and after he got overtaken by Abner, wonder if that just deflated things a little bit inside that cockpit. Looks like Cervantes, he got within about 0.3 of a second of Walden that time into the first corner.
Yes, he did. That battle for P7 getting very spicy indeed. We'll have to see if maybe Cervantes is able to get a better run out of the final corner and get it going. There they come as they work their way now into the interminably long left-hander here. Looks like Cervantes trying to take a little bit of an opposite line and then try to push it as much as they can as they work onto Hallman Boulevard.
He is pushing hard, that is for sure. Took a lot more of the exit of the track than Walden, but Walden still kept the traction down better. He's going to break into turn 8. Now Dinkle's finally getting back onto things. He was falling away from Cervantes for a lap or two. It seems like the tires are underneath him once more. Could he maybe demote Cervantes one instead of Danny being able to take a position himself?
Well, we'll have to see. Yeah, it looks like advantage slipping back to Dinkle here. But remember, we talked about when we were watching this battle earlier that we thought that Cervantes may be a little faster in a straight line. And indeed, as they get up to speed there, Dinkle looking like he's at a touch, but oh, that's a big off. That's Walden in front. Very good for Cervantes and Dinkle to stay out of carnage.
They both had to check up big time, and Dinkle actually may have been able to take that position if he didn't have to get on the brakes himself. There's the 501 of Trent Dingle, and yeah, you can see, whoa! Oh, heart in your mouth stuff.
Whew, I believe that is what the kids are calling nowadays a code brown incident there, Joe, for both of those drivers. But look at this. That has given Dingle a whole bunch of courage here. He is now all up the back of Cervantes. He wants that 7th place.
Poor Walden also lost out to Hudson. He's down to 10th. But, Dingle is going to try to get to the inside of turn 7. A sneaky move, switching back. And it looks like he's not going to be able to get it, but was very nearly able to overtake. The 25 going to defend down into turn 8. This will be mighty if he can do it around the outside of that one. And the answer is a no.
Almost looked like a little bit of ghost contact bump and run there for Dingle, just trying to get Cervantes out of the way. I don't think he necessarily meant to do it, but definitely looked like a little bit of contact from Cervantes' perspective. All right, there we go. That's a better run out of the corner there for Dingle. He's going to be on it here.
My goodness, the 501 has eaten his Wheaties this morning and has been threatening Cervantes for the past couple laps, trying to take this 7th place away. Danny, almost brushing the wall coming off the exit of the final corner. Dinkle's got a good shot at things. He looks down to the inside, no defense from the 25, gets the overlap down into the braking, all the way to the curb. He hits his marks, and Trent Dingle is going to be able to get the spot. Maybe not. Cervantes trying to fight back. No, it's not there. Trent Dingle now solidifies his position.
All right, Dingle now able to pull ahead. We'll have to see if Cervantes is going to have any fight left in him once they get back to the big oval, but I don't think he will. Dingle's already starting to pull ahead here a little bit. Dingle, though, is going to have his work cut out for him. He's about 8 seconds back of 6th place Elliott White.
So that battle that we were watching between Rondeletto and Acosta has gotten interesting. Rondeletto was quicker on lap 11. The last time through, Acosta was quicker. However, it was only by 0.2 of a second that time. They're just getting ready to come around for lap 14. So I'm curious to see if Abner is going to be quicker again, and by how much, because it seems like he's not been able to make as big of inroads as he was for a couple laps. Octavio coming to the timing line, and it's going to be a 32.7, whereas Acosta runs a 32 flat. So back to 0.7 of a second quicker for Abner Acosta. Whatever that aberrance was for the number 5, it certainly has gone away.
Most certainly, Joe, and I wonder if Abner just had a little bit of a bobble on that last lap, or maybe had to back off a little bit, lift and coast to just hit some fuel numbers that he needed to do. So he's able to take full advantage of the draft here, but he is now all over the back of that 48 machine, really putting the pressure to Rondeletto.
Got a pass for 12th as Besaw is going to look to the inside of the Tropicana car, and Sumner is going to let him have it. I almost thought the 3 was going to go off there as he went pretty deep, but it looks like he was able to cling to that one.
Yeah, just barely able to hold on there. Good for Charles Sumner to try to just keep it in there as much as possible, but Besaw able to keep the speed, keep the car going in the right way.
Looking back from Robert at Charlie Sumner. So it looks like he's pretty clear at this point. I don't think Rondeletto is going to be clear, though. He has got Acosta only 0.2 of a second behind him. Does Abner attack right away? Does he feel like he's got enough underneath him to try to attack right away? They come around the final corner onto the front stretch. Starts to drift back a little bit. I thought he had enough slipstream, but it's just not there. Acosta now 0.3 of a second behind. Yeah, this one doesn't look on anymore.
No, it doesn't. I'm not sure if that was a lift from Acosta or if it was just not getting the angle quite right. Still keeps that gap under 0.5 of a second, so it's certainly within striking range if Rondeletto was to make a mistake.
Here's the thing. We're getting very close to that halfway mark for the pit stops. Acosta could try and undercut him, but then he'll have slightly older tires come the end of the race. Depends on how important it is to try and preserve them. They come down into 6. Going around the long left-hander, switch back into 7 onto Holman Boulevard. And last time around, this is when he finally really caught that 48 car, but he didn't try anything into turn 8 itself. This time he's not going to do it once again. In the background, you can still see the red number 9 of James O'Brien watching yet more points and most likely the championship lead drift away from him.
Yeah, he's going to be a little bit upset about that, but he's doing the best that he can at this point, and he at least has a good gap behind him to Matthew Long. Oh, this is a good run here for Acosta. Is this the moment? Falls back a little bit through that penultimate corner, though.
Yeah, just not sure why he's having such trouble holding on to the back of him. It is a fast corner, but I guess aero wash affects these cars too. And yeah, 4-5 tenths of a second behind by the time they get across the line. I'm thinking Acosta might have to do this on strategy.
I think he just might have to as well. So that's when the calculators are going to start coming out. And remember, there could be a little bit of gamesmanship here. If somebody's able to go a little bit longer, they may have to run on some worn out tires for that first stint. But once they get to the second stint, they're going to be in good range because they'll be able to run a shorter distance.
Some of the Whataback drivers are apparently reporting that they feel like the rears are going away in these cars. There's so many low gear corners at this track that Bradley Holly is struggling trying to keep that thing going straight. Oh, in fact, he goes very wide coming through this corner, and I think the 27 of Elliott White is going to be able to overtake him.
I think he just might. Yes, big wiggle there for the 27.
Holds on to it, though. So the two teammates going to swap positions, see if Elliott White has better pace and is able to do what Holly can't and run down Matthew Long. And they're going to have a little bit before they get up to there because it's about 5.5 seconds to that car in P4. Once again, Acosta, I was watching him. He got it down to where he was nearly touching the rear bumper of Rondoletto, and again falls away to about 3 to 4 tenths of a second. We're on board with him now.
They're riding on board with Acosta. Just wonder if he maybe doesn't have the full straight line speed to pull this off, and that's why we saw the two of them running so close to one another earlier on. Or it may be a situation of what I was talking about, Joe, that it may be Acosta just doing a little bit of lifting and coasting here, trying to save a little bit of fuel and go a lap longer.
Could be. He's trying to run this one long, come back with fresh tires and see if that will give him enough to chase down and pass Octavio. As we continue to watch from the roof of the number 5. 48 has not had a win since, let's see, I'm trying to remember, it was pretty early in the season, I want to say, that we saw Octavio head to victory lane.
Oh, and there looks like a little bit of a move there for Acosta, trying to dive down to the inside off of Holman Boulevard. No, he's going to try to stick it out there, but Rondoletto's going to have the preferred line, able to hold on to it for the moment.
Starting to make him nervous, looking for the cutback maybe, as he wants to get underneath him, but squirming under the power. The 5 can't quite get it done. By the way, Octavio won at round 5. At North Wilkesboro. It was the last time that we saw him on the top spot. Acosta won last race onto the front stretch, and away goes Octavio once again.
Joe, I was just riding on board with Abner Acosta, and yes, despite the fact that he is in the dirty air, he's lifting a little bit more than I would expect him to in that final corner. Definitely feathering the throttle through there, and also on the exit of the penultimate corner. So I think he is trying to save a little bit while he can. Taking an opposite line, though, here, getting to the back of Rondoletto. Maybe we're going to see another opportunistic move here from Acosta.
He's looking to the outside. Is he trying to cut underneath him once again? Both of them hugging that curb all along turn 6. And then back out onto Holman Boulevard. Will we see a defense from Rondoletto this time? He lets it track all the way out. Now coming back to the racing line. No defense from him, but also no attack from Abner.
Yeah, I think Abner was just a little bit too far back there to make it work. Trying to find a little bit of an opposite line, try to carry some more momentum here. Is Abner Acosta going wider to try to make that corner as straight as possible? Acosta really trying to push it there. A little bit of wheel spin out of that machine. Again, a little bit of a lift for Acosta coming through that penultimate corner, though.
Can't seem to hang with it. Down and out of the final turn. Onto the front stretch. He's back by about 0.2 of a second, a little bit closer than he was before. Maybe he's just trying to set himself up for a run in that final turn. That's not only O'Brien in the red car that you see behind them, but Matthew Long that we catch glimpses of in the white number 28, currently running in the 4th position. The cream has really risen to the top at this track, with pretty much all of our championship contenders within those top 6, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, most certainly a lot of spreading out there between them. Continuing to watch, there was Acosta just trying to find any sort of opening. Rondoletto giving him none.
Yeah, I can confirm top 6 in the points are the top 6 on the track currently. Ooh, this is very close. If I was Abner, I'd maybe try for it, but no. Just staying slightly off the racing line. Rondoletto plays defense once again. We are within the pit window for sure at this point. Does anybody take a risk and come down, try to take some fresh rubber to pull an undercut off of the turn 11 swing and back onto the oval? Ooh, he's a lot closer. Can he hold on to this? Coming up to the final, banked right-hander. This is looking very good. Acosta might have something.
Yeah, he kept it a lot flatter there than I've seen him do it in a while. A little bit of a wiggle off of the corner there for Rondoletto. He's going to try to push here, but Acosta just looking like he's stalling out, not having that top rev range. Getting Dak down onto the binders. That's Acosta taking a wider line in again and just trying to straighten out the corner, carry as much momentum as possible.
Starting to make me wonder, by doing this and trying to maybe rattle Octavio a little bit, could he make Rondoletto use up his tires more?
He certainly could, Joe, and we're hearing a lot of drivers in the field talking about how their rears are going, specifically that left rear, as I talked about. The left side tires here taking a big beating, so that could be what he's doing. But I'd also say with the aggressiveness we're seeing out of Acosta, he's got to be using up some of his tires as well. Some very, very hard driving out of both drivers.
Yeah, we've only had one taker so far with an early stop, and that's Mark Kalin about 2 laps ago. And he's back out in 18th. He's also a lap down currently. He's still kind of charging his way past drivers on older tires currently. In fact, he just passed the 4th place driver. That tells you anything about his pace. So he's making up some time. The question is, will he have to give that back when we get to the final 5 to 10 laps of this race, and the tires are going to be much, much older for him. Nobody pitting amongst these two this time by. Acosta, who is within those 0.2 of a second. Last time he wasn't able to do it. Not sure that we'll be able to see him have an attack this time either.
No, I don't think he's going to be able to make the move, but we're going to have a little bit of trouble getting thrown up here. That's Aaron Self that they go by. Acosta looking for a little bit of a move to try to get around him right now. Rondoletto, that is. They also have Barron Hilton about 4 seconds up the road, so that could potentially throw another wrench into the works here if Rondoletto gets held out a little bit. And I think I just heard, Joe, that James O'Brien's going to be pitting in next lap.
Actually, no, I think he was talking to Aaron Self, who he was lapping. And either giving him a thank you or maybe asking him about what he was trying to do there. Regardless, he's past him now, but he's going to get overtaken by Mark Kalin. As, like I said, Kalin last lap 1:31.4. Compare that to O'Brien running a 33.3. So yeah, if I'm Acosta, I think if I see what Kalin's doing, I'm pitting early.
I have to agree with that, Joe, but we'll have to see what the driver of the 5 does this time around. Kicking up a little bit of dirt there in front was Rondoletto. Acosta just trying to find a good line here. We ride on top of the hood of the 5 machine right now.
pits this time, it'll be 1 lap earlier. Stayed a little low, and no, he is not coming in. Okay, then.
Not coming in. I thought for a second that alternate line was going to get him a little bit better of a run, but unfortunately still had to do a little bit of lifting through the final corner. Came back to bite him a little bit, not able to make the move on Rondeletto here. Again, taking that alternate line. You can see him just trying to find anything.
In fact, nobody behind them is coming in either that I can make out. Just watching. The infield is clearly the playground of Abner Acosta, who just continually puts immense pressure on the number 48. Aaron Self is the next one to pit, but he was already a lap down, so he might be just trying to get out of the way of those that were trying to lap him, save himself some time with those blue flags. Up next for these guys, that looks to be Baron Hilton up the road.
And Hilton has not pitted yet, so that is a lap on effort there. Breaking down off of Holman Boulevard. Acosta not really finding anything to get going still. Let's see if he decides to jump in the pits, or maybe he can get a little bit of a better run, learning a bit of the lessons from that last time he went through these corners.
Wonder when they're going to catch Baron here. Oh, and he almost got his nose to the inside as the 48 chops off Abner Acosta. Rondeletto is going to pit first. Oh, but he's coming in behind a very slow Baron Hilton, and he's going to try and go around the outside on the pit lane, which he does, but that may have been damage done. This could mean Abner Acosta could jump him.
Oh my goodness gracious, drama across the board there. That is the absolute worst case scenario for Rondeletto. Now that was Baron Hilton that we had been following, that he got checked up behind. Was able to get around him, but as you said, Joe, he definitely had to brake a little bit, and that's not great for Rondeletto.
The saving hope for Rondeletto is that he's going to put fresh tires on, so he's going to have to push like hell on this outlap, or else Acosta could jump him. So watching to see what kind of pit time Rondeletto has. We've had a pit stop from Zemke as well on this lap. Rondeletto with a 14.2, so that one looks decent.
Yes, it does. That's pretty much in line with a lot of the stuff we've seen from some of these other drivers here today. Zemke doing a 14.2, Kalen doing a 15.2, so a good stop for Rondeletto. He is just going to have to hope he can put the power down here and get going. Acosta, I've got to think, is going to respond.
I would imagine we're going to see a lot of the drivers in on this lap. So this is the 5 here. Here's where he's going to have to hit that pit entry. Does he hug the right-hand side, or is he staying out? No, he's going to come in. There he goes.
And as opposed to his rival here, able to carry a lot of speed down into pit lane, gets on the binders now. I didn't see the brake smoke lock up like I did out of Octavio Rondeletto. So here it all comes down to this, Joe. Rondeletto currently right now, the number 48, working his way through the backstretch.
And that's Cowgill, who has not pitted, who's actually holding him up even more. So this looks like it may not have worked out at all for Rondeletto. He's going to have a poor lap time on that outlap, most likely, even with the fresh tires, as Acosta hits his pit stall. I thought he was going to go past it. Looks like he's got those marks. Where is Rondeletto? He's coming down the front stretch right now. Acosta still in his pit stall, taking the right sides. He's off and on his way. Here comes Rondeletto. It's going to be close, and Rondeletto is still through.
Oh my goodness gracious, Rondeletto able to hold it out, and now that's Bisa Jr. right there. Almost a little bit of contact between the two, and that's going to be Acosta powering around the outside right there. A little bit of apologies from Bisa Jr. He said he didn't see Acosta, but as they come out of the pits, Joe, it is now all back to Acosta to try to gain that gap back in. Amazing driving from the 48 of Octavio Rondeletto.
I can't believe he managed to outpace him. That tells us a lot about the tires and what they're worth once you put on the fresh rubber. So Acosta has to make up about 2.5 seconds now. Robert apologized over the radio, saying that He was not aware that he was going to be there. He hasn't pitted yet. Neither is Dinkle or Hudson. I see Sumner still needing to take tires, and Harvey. Otherwise, the majority of the drivers have been in and out for their single service needed for this race.
Indeed, and now we're going to check in. This is our leader for the moment. This is Trent Dinkle. He makes his way down that tricky pit lane, coming to a rest. There's the 43 of Chris Hudson doing the same thing. So a lot of the drivers who have not come down pit lane choosing to do so here.
Where did O'Brien come out in all of this? Let's see. It looks like he's a little ways behind Acosta. Now, Besaw is going to be pitting, so O'Brien will move up the scoring tower past the number 3. Yeah, and the gap between them should settle out pretty soon once they get past the pit stalls here. That is pretty much everybody else pitting in. Sumner is now down on the lane, so is Harvey. That's the rest of them. O'Brien back by 7.5 seconds. James is looking like he is going to have to hope for something horrible to happen to the top 2, because he is certainly not in contention for the win as it stands.
No, he's not. He is going to have to pray for another charge here from Abner Acosta and to get Rondeletto and maybe have those two come together. There you can see, though, as that is Acosta starting to try to put in some quick times here, the best that he can. Really, he's already got that gap down by 0.4 of a second, Joe. He is already starting to reel in Rondeletto ahead.
Tires are going to be just about a lap fresher. So the 5 does have that going for him. Is that going to be enough to finally make the pass that he was failing to make before the pit stop? As we ride on board with the helmet cam looking up in front, you can see the 48 getting bigger and bigger in his windscreen.
Well, we'll have to see. Rondeletto was able to withstand a lot of pressure earlier. We'll have to see if he can do it again here now.
Oh, poor Mark Kalin. Ooh. This is one of those wrecks that I was worried about all race long. If we go back to the 18 a few moments ago, he lost it out of the final corner and unfortunately hit the walls really bad. So I think looks like maybe we might have to back up a bit for this 62 here. There he is on screen right there. Yes. So watch coming out of the final corner, the looseness of these cars with the older tires having taken an early stop are fortunately going to come back to bite them.
Yeah, certainly are. So here he goes diving down into that final corner. Gets the car, catches a little bit of the rumble strip there, and that sends him up into the wall. Big skid, big thwap into that inside retaining barrier.
Yeah.
And Joe, I think I'm hearing that 501 has lost it as well on the final corner.
Ooh, he did, and he did the exact same thing that we just saw, except he didn't hit the outside wall. He just came in and glanced the inside, but that sent him backwards. He's got a lot of damage, and he's down to 10th because of it. You can see it on the car. And that in front of him is 4th position. Chris Hudson and Waldo Walden have managed to get by. But already Acosta has caught up and is behind Rondeletto. He's got the slipstream. I don't think he's going to attack. Rondeletto's even defending now as they come up into the first corner. So Octavio feeling threatened.
Yeah, very much feeling threatened there was Rondeletto having to go to that inside line. I certainly think that there may have been a little bit of fuel strategy that Acosta was trying to pull off there if Rondeletto was feeling it that threatened by the number 5 machine. Here they come again. That is Abner Acosta really putting the moves on. Is he going to try to go around the outside there? No, just looks for a little bit of a crossover. Can he get the better line? Acosta almost sideways on the curb.
Tail all over the place for the number 5. He can't use up that rubber here. He's got to try and preserve it as he tries to attack. And that is certainly not going to help. Rondeletto still holds the lead, but this one, as opposed to last week, is a serious battle for the win.
It very much is. Very close behind. Coming here is Acosta through the slower section of the track. Now let's see with that fresher rubber if Acosta is able to get a better jump off of these final corners. Very close behind of Rondeletto there. Now the cars get up to speed.
2 Going to be 20 laps to go at the line. And once again, the 5 just loses car lengths as they start to pick up momentum onto the front stretch. Doesn't have the chance to pass. If he's going to get this done, I'm almost certain the 5 has got to do it in the infield.
Yeah, and we've seen Acosta's willingness to try to take a poke or two down to the inside or the outside of some of those corners in the infield, and I think Rondeletto knows that. He doesn't want to be weaving down the long front stretch here. That's just going to scrub off some speed from that car. He has got to just be hyper vigilant as they make their way through the infield, make sure that Acosta can't get by him.
Another thing worth noting is we've dropped about 10 degrees Fahrenheit on the temperature of the track since qualifying, so the clouds that we've been getting from time to time have helped cool this down in a good way as he's almost pushing him through the corner now. And this time, maybe he could have a shot at it. They'll at least have to brake at a decent distance into turn 8. He's gonna at least show his nose, but the least bit will not get him the spot, and the 5 stays in P2.
No, it will not. Here they come again, coming out of here. Let's see if Acosta runs into the same problems. Ooh, very tight line there for Rondeletto. That may almost be a cut course penalty. At least verging on it again. Acosta's trying to poke his nose down to the inside here, trying to work as hard as he can to get that preferred line, but it's not going to work.
Down through the final turn. He is a little bit closer this time. Still at 0.2 of a second behind Rondeletto. Octavio looking to try to take the second win of the season for him to match both Acosta and Holly and potentially be even better in the hunt. Both of them outbrake themselves, both down into the grass on the first corner. Acosta gets back on before the third turn, so he won't have a cut course penalty, but Rondeletto will. He tries to cover off the inside, but I think it is all for naught because there goes Abner Acosta.
Oh my goodness, you want to talk about being a heads-up driver. That's exactly what Acosta was doing there. He recognized he needed to get immediately back on the track and not get that cut course penalty and let Rondeletto take it, and that is what got him ahead finally.
It was all down to who could take the least amount of pain, and that was Abner Acosta. It was a mistake into that corner that gave away the lead for him, and it was a mistake that gave it back.
It was indeed. The grass giveth and the grass taketh away. And look at this already, Joe, as they make their way out of the infield. Abner Acosta already going that lead up to about 1.5 seconds.
Wow. So Rondeletto was actually holding him up, if anything. There was a lot of pace in that 5, but proving incredibly hard to pass here at Indianapolis's road course. Down to the line, and now that he's got clear track, will he scamper off into the distance for these remaining 16 or 17 laps? Looks like 18 laps to go, rather, that they have. That separates a good chunk of our fields, but I want to give some credit to one of our hard chargers, Danny Cervantes, in the 25. Started in 12th, rather, and is up to 7th. Now, had that backwards, and he certainly had to do some work for it. We've watched him have some battles throughout the race. You see him coming around to complete lap 29 now.
Yeah, remember, this was the car that was holding off Trent Dinkle earlier in the race and doing a great job at doing so. So a very determined drive out here for Danny Cervantes. This will be a good points haul today for the Whataback Orange driver.
Now, speaking of Whataback, we're getting reports from Bradley Holly that the track is feeling different, which I would hope so, now that it's 12 degrees Fahrenheit lower than it was before. Can that really throw you off? Is there a downside to having the track grip up, especially if you set the car up for different temperatures, DJ?
Well, what can happen, Joe, is you'll actually get a little bit of over grip. The car will want to bite. Whoa, there you see it. Specifically, what may happen is that you may have those front tires gripping a little bit more than the rears at this point. That you're going to get a lot of grip that way, and you'll actually start to oversteer a little bit as a result of it.
Oh, and Dinkle's the latest victim of turn 4, probably the heaviest hit we've seen yet. And I think his day is done as he just smashed it coming out of that one. Meanwhile, out of turn 4, hopefully a little bit safer there for Bradley Holly as he works on starting lap 31 now.
And there he goes. He's got about a 2-second gap up the road to Elliott White in P5. But I've got to say, Holly was about 0.3 of a second faster on that last lap than Elliott White was. So he's starting to try to close in a little bit here if he can.
Yeah, I think Bradley Holly wants to try and make up for last week. Certainly didn't do poorly, but would have liked a little bit higher of a finish. He's sitting in 6th, and when they were out at Watkins Glen, he at least got himself a top 5 on that one. Down into turn 8 here. Last time by, White ran a lap of a 32.1. Holly with a 31.8.
Yeah, so definitely starting to pull in the best that he can here. That gap closing a little bit more. Holly's now got it down to about 2.2 seconds.
Yeah, last time out, Bradley Holly finished 7th in the end. Got himself 39 points with that, though. Taking a lot of bonus points, as he typically does. Interestingly, coming into this round, O'Brien and Acosta were tied on bonus points, 23 each for the pair of them. For Holly, he had 25 coming into this round.
Did indeed. Holly gonna be happy, I think, to walk away here with the P5 if he's able to close it down, but not exactly what he needs to do to really keep everything alive if they can. Just a little bit of a note here, sun starting to come back out on track. Temperature back up to about 102 degrees Fahrenheit. That wind's still blowing at about 10 miles an hour. So track temperature here very much in flux. Drivers are gonna have to be on their toes.
Things started out so well, and the drivers who weren't on their toes, unfortunately, have left us prematurely. Walter has DNF'd. Looks like Aaron Self is gone. Trent Dinkle, the latest one that we mentioned. Hilton has been taking repairs for about 10 minutes. Not sure if he'll return. It's also been about 11 minutes of repairs for Mark Kalin, and is looking unlikely to be able to get back out there. So only 15 of them still rolling. Sounds like Besaw had some sort of an issue. No, actually, it was Michael Witt, I think, who had an issue. Yeah, he spun off the track. Looks like he's able to get the 26 back rolling, so nothing dramatic there, just unfortunately discovering the difficulties of driving stock cars on road courses.
Yeah, not exactly the easiest thing to do for sure. Continue to follow here, Elliott White. The gap holding station at about 2 seconds right now. The 27 doing a good job of keeping Bradley Holly behind him.
Yeah, last time by 32.4. Elliott White, 32.4. Wow, just about matched on pace between these two. But we have to remember that these are teammates on the Whataback team. So they don't want to trip each other up too much out there. Wonder if that's why we saw Holly allow that 27 to get through at one stage. Acosta, by the way, if you're wondering what he's done with that gap, it's up to 4.5 seconds now. He's definitely been quicker. It was a 31.2 last time by for him. Rondoletto, 31.8, about 0.6 of a second slower. Let's see what it is this time for the 5. He crosses the line, a 31.2 once again. Very consistent out there, as Rondoletto a 10th slower than last lap, 31.9, continuing to just run out of reach of our leader, who is likely about to become the championship points leader after this race.
Yeah, indeed. And he will also help to grow a little bit of that team's championship lead for private label Team Hype as they continue to try to strive for P1 in that other championship as well. So Abner doing a good job of carrying the torch for that team here.
Yeah, James O'Brien, the other one on that one for private label Team Hype. 1-2 in the points as we look at Bradley Holly. Well, this one has now come down quite a bit that time. Elliott White with a bit of a slow lap, and Bradley Holly starting to show up in his mirrors.
Yeah, here's that pressure for the 184. That gap coming down now to about 0.7 of a second. Holly's just going to have to keep it together here through the second half of this infield section. He'll be able to feel the effects of the draft once they get out to the super speedway.
They'll need to be closer than this to try and attack, and it seems like many drivers just not quite able to hold position behind the faster car in front of them through those last couple corners. So I wonder if this will be a struggle now that Holly has actually caught up to the 27. Will he have an easier time than Acosta did to try and take the screws to the 27 car onto the short chute on the south end of the track, and then coming around the final turn a little bit farther back than what we've seen for Acosta, but it doesn't seem to be doing too bad onto the front stretch this time by Elliott White. Oh, and White's going to let him back through, so there is that sportsmanship returning the favor to the 184 when he saw him coming.
Indeed, a little bit of team tactics, a little bit of sportsmanship. Either way, it goes a long way for the two of them. So kudos to Elliott White there, and that's Bradley Holly up into 5th.
Wonder if we could get another onboard with Abner Acosta here in that number 5 machine, as he's clearly been the quickest guy out there today, at least in the race itself. Certainly took the pole away by a good margin. DJ, we got to watch the Indy cars race here in real life. We got to watch the stock cars race here, but here on the sim, talk us through a lap with Abner Acosta and what it takes to be quick around here.
Well, Joe, as you can see here, this is what you can call the quote-unquote easier part of the track. It comes naturally to these NASCAR drivers. You bring it down here through IndyCar turn 1. You don't want to touch that rumble strip, but get nice and close to it. Let the car ring up all the way to the wall there. Don't let it touch. And now you take a moment to breathe as you cross the world-famous yard of bricks. Now we come down here into the braking zone. Start your braking phase at about that 2 board. Come down here, just a little bit of a bump onto that inside curb, and then as well there onto the inside curbing of turn 2. Let the car run a little bit wide as it works its way out here. Maybe kiss that rumble strip if you're trying to, and really try to take a late apex there as it goes through the corner. Ride the rumble strip there as you take it into the right-hander. Let the car drift over to the left a little bit and then take it into the center of the track. It crowns there in the middle, so you don't actually want to bring it all the way. Be very cautious on the brakes as you go through this long left-hander, and then bring it back to the left before you flick over to the right, and then get onto the power as quickly as you can to take this long blast down the Holman straight. This is your second chance to breathe on the track. Now get over to the right, line it up, and get through this left-handed sweeper. It's only about 3rd gear there, so you don't want to go too hard into it, but then start to bleed off the speed as much as possible before you get to the slowest corner on the track there, that left-hander. Now bring it over fully to the left of the track. Get it over, take a big chunk of that exit curbing, and then let the car run wide. You've got to nail that corner absolutely right and get onto the power, because it's what leads you all the way back onto the big, mighty Indianapolis Oval.
There's a lap with Abner Acosta. Having a bit of problems with his internet, though. Hopefully that holds out. It's not the first time we've seen that. Unfortunately, one of the drivers that we lost early today was Mark Kalin. He doesn't appear to be returning to the track as he's now on about 17 minutes of repairs. We've got him with us, though. And Mark, it seems like that last corner starts to become pretty tricky as the tires go away. You're not the only driver the two have found the wall there.
Yeah, unfortunately, grip is at a premium, and the way I drive the car, you know, I'm always losing the grip the fastest of anybody, generally being pretty heavy on that throttle pedal. But yeah, it was unfortunate. You know, I got checked out at the infield care center. They said I was okay, but just a battered ego.
Yeah, well, the good news is I guess you don't have any more road courses on the schedule after this one. Are you looking forward to getting back to Michigan next week?
I am. Michigan's actually been a pretty decent track for me, and then I'm looking for a little bit of revenge for the last season at Daytona after the heartbreak at iRacing Super Speedway.
Yeah, well, sometimes that just happens in these championships, and what a championship we've been having. Have you been enjoying watching how close things have been up at the front?
Oh, it's been phenomenal. We got a couple of extra guys up there that's normally up there, so having 4 or 5 cars all still be in contention for the title is just awesome. I love it, and it's getting more intense, each lap of every race, and it's been really fun to follow.
Well, hopefully we'll get to talk to you under better circumstances when we head up to the mitten. Got anybody you want to give a shout out to while we got you?
Yeah, just a quick shout out to my Whataback teammates. We're currently holding steady in 5th, 6th, and 7th right now. Then we got Patrick in 10th. So we're doing pretty good. All of our drivers except for me in the top 10 holding steady, and hopefully we can bring it home with the rest of the cars in one piece.
Yeah, crossing fingers for you. That was Mark Kalin, who will get scored in 17th today. We're watching those Whataback teammates. Bradley Hawley ahead of Elliott White have swapped positions twice here, and they might swap back again. There goes Bradley Hawley a little bit deep. Thankfully, White is aware, and he is able to avoid running into his teammate. Hawley shuffled back to 6th, White back up into 5th.
So a little bit of back and forth there, but we're going to jump up to the battle here for P3, Joe, as Matthew Long's been able to close in a little bit on James O'Brien.
Yeah, it's down to 1 second here. Let's see what the lap times look like between them. 32.3, 32.5 for Matthew Long. O'Brien, 32.5, 32.3. So they reversed positions on lap times from those last 2 laps. We're down to 10 to go. It's do or die time, and Matthew Long just as equally wants to try and overtake O'Brien here on this track, since he came in a mere 7 points behind the championship leader.
Yeah, that'll be a nice little points haul if Long is able to get by here. Gap's starting to stretch back out a little bit as they get up to speed. It's holding at about a second right now. Matthew Long weaving a little bit, just trying to find the best way to get that draft. 9/10 of a second as they cross the Yard of Bricks with 9 laps to go. So a lot of 9s out here today. Now hard onto the binders into that turn 1 complex. Looks like Long's being a little bit more aggressive on the curbing there, trying to push that number 28 machine just as hard as he can.
The last time by, it was a really slow one for O'Brien at a 33.8. Long made up a bunch of his time in this battle. That last circuit around, running a 32.7. We watch from his roof down into turn 6 as he's hoping for potentially a podium here today. It's like now 9 laps to go. The leader's setting a blistering pace up at the front. Last round at Watkins Glen, Matthew Long only getting an 8th place, just cracking into the top 10. In fact, he was the last one on the lead lap at the road course in New York.
Yes, he was indeed. Continue to ride on that hood of Matthew Long. You see just how much of that curbing he took coming out of the infield there. Able to get the gap down a little bit there as they get up to speed. Obviously, it's going to release back out a little bit. I don't really think that's going to be a whole lot for Long. They do have Michael Witt up ahead of them, about 5.5 seconds up the road. 8 laps to go here. They may catch him. That may provide a little bit of a problem.
Ooh, yeah, dealing with that lap traffic. 32.4, much better for O'Brien that time. 32.6, a little slower for Long. So giving himself a tiny buffer. O'Brien making sure that Long doesn't steal his podium away and worsen his championship situation. Rondeletto just got by Witt as well recently. I think it's going to be, about a lap or 2. In fact, it might be this lap that they catch that 26.
Yeah, Witt was slowed down a little bit. Rondeletto having another excursion over the grass on turn 1. And that, I think, slowed Witt down a little bit, just checking up to make sure he wouldn't hit him. So there you see O'Brien coming out onto Hollywood Boulevard. That is Witt right there in the blue and white machine right ahead of him. So this is going to be interesting. I think O'Brien's going to be praying he catches him on the big oval, and I think he just might.
It's looking like he most likely will. Now, there's the other possibility that Witt is aware of the situation happening behind him and pulls over even before then, as he certainly gets a lot of wheel spin coming off of turn 11. Doesn't look like he's planning on pulling over now. And he is way too far ahead to be overtaken on the main straight again, unless he lifts. Here we go, coming up on that number 26. No, he's staying on the racing line.
Stay on the racing line, but the one bit of silver lining there is that means O'Brien's going to be able to pull a little bit of a draft there behind Witt, but now's where it's not going to be good. That's have to be a big check up there for James O'Brien. He's got to go around the outside of turn 2. That definitely lost him a couple of tenths of a second.
Oh, just an awkward space for him to try and squeeze past. Long now has it down to 0.5 of a second on James O'Brien. This is going to be one of the best opportunities he's seen in a while to try and get something to happen. Closes in even more under braking down into turn 6. Could he be brave and try something into 8?
He may be thinking about it. I don't think he's going to be quite enough close there. You see him having to fight that wheel a little bit with coming up on 6 laps to go. Those rear tires are going to be screaming out a little bit. And yeah, indeed, going down into 8, he doesn't quite have the distance, but he does have the gap down to about 0.4 of a second. So that's going to be prime draft opportunity if he's able to pull this out just right. Look at him close there through the slower corners.
Matthew Long starting to get a little threatening now. And James O'Brien has got to deal with the pressure. He's been chasing for much of this race, and now he's got to play defense. Briefly had it with Abner Acosta, but Acosta made short work out of that 9 car. Matthew Long has the slipstream. We're riding on board, and it looks like he's actually gaining a bit, and he starts to drop back. Just couldn't hold on to it coming off of the exit of the final turn. Braking hard. You can see the wheels sawing a little bit as he tries to steady it on the binders. And tantalizingly close. This 28 could have this spot, but he's got to be careful.
Yeah, he really does. And you said it there, Joe, that he was just drifting up through that final corner a little bit. The aero wash really affecting him. I think he had to lift ever so slightly, worried about running into that safer barrier on the outside of what is IndyCar 1.
We are down to only 11 cars left on the lead lap as Zemke just got lapped by Acosta. These two fighting for a position on the lead lap, and you can see them take plenty of that exit curve coming onto the back straight. Long now has to make up a little bit of time. Lost a bit. Back up to 0.5 of a second to O'Brien.
Yeah, back there, but let's see if maybe that little bit of a gap will allow him to pull up when he needs to on the oval sections here. Keeping an eye, Acosta about to cross the line for 5 laps to go. That gap between Long and O'Brien holding at about 0.6 of a second. Here they come.
He's farther back than he was last time through. So I'm doubtful that he'll be able to make an opportunity out of it. Now, last lap, we also had Cervantes go off in turn 1. Managed to get it back rolling before he lost a position, but Chris Hudson has closed down on him because of that error. Oh, and almost looked like out-braking himself there. Did Long go wide? He did.
Yes, he did. That's going to put him back to about a second or so back, unfortunately.
Oh, he was so tantalizingly close. We're going to watch the replay. And yeah, there you can see him just go a little too deep into the corner.
Yeah, able to hold it out there. You see, wow, very good job for Long to keep all 4 tires on the black stuff. But yeah, that may be the deciding factor that prevents him from taking over that final step on the podium.
It's been proving very hard to pass here today. So yeah, you need to be up on the wheel as we look at Cervantes and Hudson still trying to decide who will come home with 7th. Hudson gained a lot of ground after Danny went off in turn 1. He's got to be licking his chops.
Yeah, I think he certainly is. You can see the aggressive line he's taking there. That is Cervantes ahead, just trying to get a little bit of a better jump if he can. Powering now onto Holman Boulevard. Whoa, a lot of bit of a squiggle there for Chris Hudson, and that's going to allow for Cervantes to streak ahead as they go into turn 8.
So each time we see drivers get close, it seems like they just can't hold it together, dealing with the pressure to try and perform an attack. Hudson could still get back into this. It's only up to about 0.7 of a second. All depends on how well he fares now that they're going to return to the oval. We're at 4 laps to go. Make it 3.5 really, because Costa is already halfway through his lap and on to the front stretch. Yeah, it's back down to about 0.5 of a second. So Hudson's reeling this back in 0.4 of a second. Not going to be close enough to Danny, but that's encouraging for the 43.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think he may be a little bit trimmed out. Some good straight line speed there for Hudson, but you did see that very close wiggle on the exit of the final corner there for the 43. That was a little bit too close for comfort. But really putting the pressure on here is Chris Hudson. That gap, 0.5 of a second. Let's see how he performs through this infield section. I think if he can maybe get a good run onto Holman Boulevard, this could be a very close battle.
Midwest Summer's doing their typical thing. We've gone underneath 100 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface now, down to 99. And we've had quite a bit of clouds coming in and out, just keeping the drivers guessing. Onto the back stretch, Cervantes guessed right and managed to get himself out of reach of the 43 once again.
Yeah, there it is. But whoa, look how close the 43's trying to get there through that final infield flick. Whoa, he is very much on the back. One more corner before it becomes all about the draft, Joe.
Yeah, that one looked very good for him. Much better this time by. As we come onto the oval, past the stands. Keeps it about 0.4 of a second. Can he be good on the brakes and try and attack on Danny down into there? Cervantes wants to keep this hard charger. Hudson up 2 spots from where he began this race. Ooh, he's going to look to the inside, and he's going to try for it. He goes to brake deep, but no, he never could get the overlap on that one.
No, I just couldn't quite get it to work, but we saw that closing he was able to have in both sections of the infield. Maybe he'll have to take a little bit of an opportunistic move to try to get it done. Just keeping that pressure up to Cervantes right now as they make their way down past the scoring tower and into this long left-hander. This is the setup for the Holman Boulevard turn. There he goes. Oh, that's a little bit of a wide run there for Hudson, but if he's able to square off the corner, he could get a good run here into turn 7.
Going to be 2 laps to go at the line between them, as the 25 just watches those mirrors with half an eye, making sure that Hudson's not able to get a sneak attack on him. He's been keeping him just far enough away that we haven't seen Chris really get the overlap that he needs to get a pass out of this. Even then, I don't think it's guaranteed, since the back and forth of the first few corners certainly seemed to be a toss-up as to who can have the better exit. This time, coming back onto the oval, he's got it down to 0.3 of a second.
Yes, he does. Let's see if it's able to go. This is the view out the back of Cervantes. You can see that 43 Mustang starting to close here a little bit. If Hudson can just keep that power down, he may have a look here.
He's gonna look, but unfortunately, I don't think this one's gonna work either. If he manages to get side by side, that is gonna be an absolute send. And I can't imagine that car will keep control. These tires are shot, don't forget. They're at the end of the second stint, and these things have got to be slipperier than ice in January.
Yeah, bring out the kitty litter here to make sure that they can get some good traction on. But Joe, check this out. This is that battle for P3. Matthew Long is caught back up to James O'Brien, and they've got Pat Harvey right ahead of them, some lap traffic.
But he's only going to have one lap to do it because Acosta just crossed the line. Incredibly, after he got past, Acosta's gotten up to 16 seconds ahead of Rondoletto. I'm unsure if some of that may be due to some offs, or if this is just straight pace, but regardless, Acosta is becoming Mr. Road Course for this series, which is to nobody's surprise of anyone who's followed his career in the PRL. Down into the first corner, O'Brien dealing with the pressure, but now he's also got to deal with the lap traffic of Harvey.
Yes, he does, and Harvey not making life easier for him there as they try to get around. That's a little bit of a line off there. That's the 9 getting a little bit squirrely of James O'Brien. This is going to be some good fights here for Matthew Long. Oh, he's going to try to send it and make it almost 3 wide there through the left-hander of turn 6. Now it's going to be the line up to turn 7 and onto Holman Boulevard. Does Long have anything left?
Just not quite there, even with that lap traffic onto the back stretch. Looking to the left side, just showing his nose. That's reeks of desperation, though. I don't think he is going to be able to send that one in. But Abner Acosta started on the pole. He made a few mistakes along the way, but he made up for them. And Acosta, we believe, will be your new championship leader after this race as the 5 takes his 3rd win of the season.
An absolutely mega drive from Abner Acosta. He had to fight off one of his title rivals, Octavio Rondoletto, and ended up crossing the line.
O'Brien was slow, and Long just hit the wall. Something wild happened there. We'll come back and look at the replay in a moment. I think Cervantes's battle looks like it petered out in the first corner as Danny went wide, and Chris did get the position in the end. So what happened to O'Brien and Long? I thought for a second, I saw James slow. I thought he had run out of fuel.
So it looks like a big wiggle there coming out of the corner. Long getting a good run here and just overshoots it, bammo, into the wall. And that's going to slow him down and allow for the 9 to get coasting to the line. Let's ride here and see what it was. Yeah, he just overshot it, Joe. He just tried to carry a little bit too much speed. I think a little bit of the aero wash pushing him forward and overran the corner.
Wow. Well, it was a valiant effort. He still came home in 4th, but with a beat-up car. That's going to take us to break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We just watched round 8 of the Precision Racing League NASCAR Cup Series. Abner Acosta took another victory. It's his 3rd of the season. We believe this might send him to the top of the point sheet. Octavio Rondoletto, though, is close on his heels. He's going to make sure that that championship comes down to the smallest margins. So did James O'Brien, but James and Octavio were way far behind on the track itself. But that's the last of the road courses that could help Abner try and get a points boost. Matthew Long almost stole 3rd from James at the very end, but smacked the wall in one last effort to get by. Elliott White was P5 and a constant run alongside Bradley Holly in 6th behind him. The two teammates running line astern for the majority of the race. Chris Hudson was 7th, as Danny Cervantes was 8th, and Waldo Walden 9th, and Patrick Cowgill wound up 10th.
In 11th, it was Robert Besaw Jr., and he was the last driver to finish on the lead lap, with Adam Zenke and Pat Harvey coming home 12th and 13th, 1 lap down. Michael Witt was 2 laps down, with Charles Sumner 2 laps down as well. And then we get into the non-finishers in Dinkel, Kalen, Hilton, Self, and Brandon Walter.
Looks like we've got our 3rd place finisher ready to talk to us. It is James O'Brien. And James... James, we believe, we feel pretty safe that this may have lost you the championship lead, but it looks like you minimized the damage by at least finishing only 1 position behind Rondoletto and 2 behind Acosta. Are you satisfied with that result, or are you hoping for a little bit more and maybe to finally take that victory that you've been looking for?
Be realistic. It's a road course and it's Abner. I think this was the best I could get. It was about time I lost the points lead. I know I've been up there for the whole season, haven't won a race yet, but I've always enjoyed road courses, but with people like Abner and Octavio coming in, it gets a little bit harder to win. I worked really hard this week on the setup for him and I and Brandon, and just put in a lot of laps of practice, and it paid off. I'm really happy with that result. I think this track suits my driving style pretty well. A lot of patience. You can't really rush anything. If you burn your tires up, you're gonna really struggle. But yeah, 3rd, I'm pretty excited about that.
In the first it seemed like you were able to hang with those top 2 a little bit better. In the second, you suddenly fell away. What was the difference to you between the 2 of them?
I'm not really too sure, actually, because for a while I was holding Matt off pretty comfortably. And then all of a sudden he just started pulling me in, and I noticed I wasn't doing anything differently. Maybe I was just driving it too relaxed. Maybe I was just used to old tires and went out on fresh ones and kind of rested on my laurels, so to say, and really didn't give it everything until he started really closing up. But I know I had a few run-ins with some lap cars, and that kind of slowed me down a little bit. It kind of didn't go my way in some of the turns trying to pass them. But for the most part, I think it was just an error on my part, just not driving it at 100%.
Interesting assessment on that. But we've got Michigan up next and Daytona Oval for the season finale. Are either of those particularly strong for you that you feel like a win is likely, that you can finally break that duck?
Well, Michigan, I won there last year. That's probably one of my best tracks. Daytona, we as a team usually do really well at super speedways. We have a pretty good package that we bring there that we kind of use and recycle. So the chances, I think, are high, but it's kind of difficult when you're battling your teammate for the points lead. So while we want to ensure that private label Team Hype comes away with the team championship, one of us also has to get the first place in the championship as well.
You certainly don't want to throw that one away. Anyways, congratulations on a podium finish. Anybody help make this one happen for you?
Yeah, Abner, of course, he's the road guy. He definitely helped Brandon and I with line work and all that. Private label, as I'd mentioned before, being on board. Ethica still. Moto Million. Tommy Milner, he's off in Lamar. He usually helps us with the road course stuff, but he can't right now because he's got bigger fish to fry. Ty for kind of helping out with pit calls and crew chiefing when we're racing, and you guys and PRL.
Awesome stuff there from James O'Brien, who finished third. Up next, our second place finisher, Octavio Rondoletto. DJ's caught up with him.
Well, Octavio, it was a good start to that race. You got off to an early lead and then just a fantastic battle there with Abner. What was going through your head seeing that number 5 fill in your mirrors?
Hello, everybody. Well, I did all what I had to do, all what I could. I'm really exhausted, but I really enjoyed the race, the battle with Abner. He's a really fast driver here in road courses, but I really enjoyed the experience of running road courses with these cars.
Well, I like to hear that, my friend. I know it was a real treat to see you guys around this great track. So obviously this is pretty good for you. You're going to get yourself ahead a little bit of James O'Brien and keep Abner right in your sights for the championship. Are you looking forward? How close do you think you can make this thing?
The championship battle is so close now because Abner is in first position now, but we are so close to each other. And this result helped me a lot. Remember, we have Daytona in the last race. This is extreme. This will be a big show.
Well, all right. The show is what we can hope for. So now I have to ask, though, we head to one of those big super speedways next week. We head to Michigan. How do you think that's going to go for you and this 48 machine?
I really love Michigan. This is a really nice track. We can battle a lot side by side there. This will be crucial for the championship. Who can be patient, intelligent in the end of the race.
Well, I know us up here in the booth are very excited to see it, Octavio. Anybody you'd like to thank here for this second place today?
At first, my team, Junco Racing Sports, BC Workshop, Libres Argentinas, Distribuidora Delta, y Come River Plate. And a special thank you to my spotter. Every race he supports me, Coach Dorso.
Well, thank you so much, Octavio. That was your second place finisher here today, Octavio Rondoletto. And now Joe Peak is caught up with your winner and we think new championship leader, Abner Acosta.
Congratulations, Abner. A third win on the season. Almost felt like you maybe threw it away for a moment, though. What was going through your head when you blew that first corner?
Hello, guys. Good evening. I was having trouble with that turn all day. I think I ran through turn 1 like 3 times during the whole race or 4 times. So once I ran off, I was just trying to make sure I get on track and lose the least time as possible and not hit anybody else. So I did not expect the first 3 laps for people to be that close to me because they were really close. James and Rondo, they were doing a great job. But once I got to the back and I saw that I was much faster, so I think it was just the draft. We think they were just running a higher gear ratio, that they were just faster on the straights. But I messed it up a lot of times during the race, but I knew I had the speed. Every time I recovered from my mistakes, I was just catching them back up. So I was still confident, just passing was really tough.
Yeah, talk to us about that, because we saw that you would get very close in the infield and then come back to the oval, and it seemed like you would fall away. Was that aero wash, or what was causing that?
I think it was the gearing. I'm pretty sure Rondo and his guys were running a higher gearing because they were on first gear most of the turns, and I was in second. And I was behind him. I was redlining before we even got to turn 1, like way before. So I couldn't do anything. I was just riding. And just the fact that when he was behind me, I couldn't lose him, but I was like way faster when we lost the draft. So it was a little frustrating, but as you guys saw, we both made a mistake at the same time, and I guess he got an off track and I didn't, and I was able to get him off my draft.
We heard a little bit from your teammate James about the frustrations of dealing with two teammates fighting for the championship, as well as trying to take the team's hunt. How do you deal with that in these last two rounds? Are there any agreements between you on how you want to handle those sort of situations if you wind up racing each other?
No, we don't have. I mean, basically, it's not wreck each other is rule number one. As teammates. But we really don't have any rules. I feel bad because he's the one that makes the sets and he's the one that puts all the work into them. And that has to kind of suck for him a little bit. But yeah, no, we're very friendly, and as long as we don't wreck into each other, we're always helping each other during the race. Like when he was running third right behind Octavio, he was letting me know if he was pushing, if he was not pushing, and as the race goes along, we're kind of deciding, okay, I'll pit first, and then you'll get on the lead so you can get a point. So we definitely work everything out now. I don't know how that's going to work in the last race when we're racing for the championship there, but so far we do great as teammates.
Oh, it's great to hear. And I guess some of it is down to execution on those setups, but congratulations on another win, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you back at Michigan.
Thank you, guys.
It was Abner Acosta, our winner here today, and that's going to close us out. So I want to give a big thank you to the sponsors of the series, which of course starts with ASR. They design and build the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com. And RaceLab. It helps you to improve your driving skills. Start using it now for free at RaceLab.app. As well as ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing at thebutkicker.com. And SimMSA. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SimMSA.net. And finally, NinjaTrader. Visit NinjaTrader.com and get started with a risk-free trading simulator to start tracking your performance. Thanks goes out to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more awesome work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media. Also, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing channel, because as we said, in a week's time, we'll be up at Michigan Sunday, August 22nd at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.